the companies, as he rightly pointed out, have managed the process very well. A lot of action was taken. The internet has held up. People have been able to work from remote very well. The digitalization of the industry, in our industry particularly, we've been able to operate all our assets from remote. Where we needed to have people present, we've been able to manage the social distancing requirements, etc., extremely well with very, very low infection rates amongst 170,000 staff. So that's been managed very, very well. What has gone missing is this element of human contact, the creativity, and the synergies which you create by working together. So there are certain things which we are beginning to do now. So in some locations, we are beginning to get back to the office in limited numbers, 1 day a week or something, and have people to physically interact. Also, what we are encouraging is to make people meet outside the office in open spaces where you're permitted to do so. So for example, my colleagues who live in the neighborhood, we actually go out for a forest walk on a Sunday morning. And we spend the first half an hour purely talking about how we are feeling about the different things and keep it more social. And then over the next half an hour or so, we can talk about different things related to work, and then chill out again in the end with some personal conversation. So I think this type of adaptation and all is essential to do, at least for the near future. What concerns me more is the younger generation, who, for example, have been, I've got 2 interns in my team who have never met face to face so far. I'll be seeing the first one this Tuesday. And they've been working for 2 months. So they are part of the company, but they don't know who they work for. They do not know the culture. They do not know what is really expected of them in some ways and what they can actually gain from all of this contact. So I think it's important to get those people more involved. So firstly, a little bit of backdrop. So when I look at 2020, Europe for the first time had more power generation from renewables than from fossil fuels, first time in history. Yeah. And I think this is only going to accelerate. You could talk about 2020 being a special year where the demand was low, but if it was not 2020, it would have happened in 2021. So we are surely moving very rapidly towards this transformation. And also the renewable assets held up very well. And why is that? The reason is that most of the renewable assets and the new net zero assets which we are building are firstly quite advanced in technology. So, they've got the state of the art digital control systems, etc., and also a lot of telemetry. Also, all our renewable assets, including the older hydro assets as well, we operate them actually from remote. So the operations are centralized in one control room somewhere, and you can manage them country by country or continent by continent. So that means the physical presence of people having to go out and work on the site for operations purposes, except for some very limited operation, is reducing quite a lot. So that means that you can keep your people more secure in the case of something like a pandemic where you don't have too many people having to work on closed sites, as we have the case in the case of thermal generation, for example. That is still the case. Maintenance, of course, is a different challenge. Maintenance is very much what we do on the ground. And for maintenance as well, with the use of digitalization, you are able to predict maintenance. So you don't have to do more frequent maintenance. In fact, we're doing lesser maintenance, and we're not causing maintenance-induced defects, etc. But it means that you can predict, you can plan, and you can do targeted maintenance, which allows you to make sure that the whole activity is carried out more safely. It also leads to a different challenge, which sometimes we talk about, that people not being on the site, maintaining regularly every day, tend to lose touch with the equipment. And so you could have a situation in which the person is not fully aware of the risks on the site, simply because he hasn't been on the site or she hasn't been on the site that frequently. So digital tools, especially video tools or something, which can actually enable what I would call as digital assistance, guidance to what you're having to do on site, would actually be a big help. So that's the next step, maybe, which will happen in the future. Right now, you can do everything electronically, and you have the method statements, etc. And then sometimes you need to do a specific risk assessment, and it prints out and tells you what to do and how to manage the risk on site. But if it is all done by video and managed, it could be even better. So those types of innovations, I think, would automatically come in. especially when we see all these things happening. And I shouldn't forget, I won't talk about the gas network. Chris is already there, but so he knows much more about gas than I do. But also what has happened in this whole current pandemic, we've seen that the digitalization of the network, the grid control, has actually worked quite well. And this is only going to accelerate. So especially when you have a lot of new variable generation being added, then you have some storage, and then you have some more dispatchable generation. How to make sure all of that is working properly to keep your network safe, to also protect the people who are working on the network so you don't have any fault somewhere which could lead to accidents, and also the citizens safe as a consequence of all of that could very well be managed with more and more digitalization taking place. The biggest thing is that we've been out of connect with people for quite some time. So when you go back, just remember to go through what is happening around you. Be appreciative that there are still all those hazards around you still existing. So not to forget that, and just to bear that in your mind, and also refresh it with your colleagues. The companies may not be able to do all the refresher trainings, etc., but at least from your own side, be very aware. All those risks which you had before you left work will still be there when you come back. You just need to be very aware and not forget those.